everyone, thanks for joining us in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. So I'd like to introduce our next guest to discuss a new documentary film, Man in the Red Bandana. Tommy DeNucci, producer and director with Verdi Films, will now join us. Come on in.
Hey, Molly.
Hey, it's so nice to see you.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. So you work with Verdi Films, and actually looking forward to this next production that you're going to debut here in Rhode Island, Man in the Red Bandana. Tell us just a little bit about the story.
Man in the Red Bandana is a documentary film. So this is a film, it's a true story, covers an actual thing that took place. And it's one of those stories that if it were written in a narrative movie, you'd almost say that never happened. That's too extraordinary, it's too unbelievable. It tells a story of a young man named Wells Remy Crowther, who is one of the, probably one of the biggest heroes of that day, of 9/11. What he did was absolutely extraordinary, and he made the ultimate sacrifice to save over a dozen people from that tower, literally carrying them on his back at some points, up and down several flights of stairs, and basically just giving his life for others. So it's an amazing story. This documentary covers everything from the beginning all the way to the kind of detective story that his mother had to go through to discover what he did. Obviously, a lot of lives were lost that day, and a lot of people's families and friends didn't know what happened or understand the existence of them or the magnitude of what they might have done that day. And for Wells, he was one of these guys who his mother actually kind of pieced together this story through other tales that had been told through various reports, through various newspaper articles. And it kind of got pieced together, and what's so incredible about this is this young man always had, ever since he was a little boy, he kept this red bandana on him. It was like his thing. It was always in his pocket. So that actually came into action on the day to save his life, because he was able to put that bandana around his face and wade through the thick smoke, and he knew what to do. He was a volunteer fireman. That's what this documentary goes into. And he used that red bandana to kind of keep his composure, and that was his little secret weapon, if you will, to get through those horrible events. And, days later and weeks later, they didn't know what happened to Wells, but there was this story, almost like a comic book tale, of this man in a red bandana who came up to these people and helped them and gathered them up and shepherded them through the fire and to safety. So he's a real-life superhero. And this documentary is very much to get people to be aware of this superhero. We all went to see Spider-Man a couple weeks ago, but this is the real superhero of New York City, Wells Remy Crowther. And the man in red bandana will tell you all about it.
Yeah, so Wells Crowther, the story, you might be familiar, a reporter from ESPN, Tom Rinaldi, wrote this story, The Red Bandana, A Life, a Choice, a Legacy. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for quite some time. His story has been told and now coming to life in a documentary film. Really he saved on 9/11 about a dozen people. It could even be more, but the family kind of learned, like you said, pieced together his story just through witness statements.
Yeah.
And it was all because these people, they didn't know who he was, and because he lost his life that day by saving other people, but they all recognized him with this red bandana on. So really just a true statement. How did you get involved in this project? Why did you feel like it was important to tell this story?
Well, I came onto the project working with Chad Verdi and Verdi Productions. I came on as an executive producer, working with editor Sam Eilertson to kind of take Matt Weiss is the writer-director and the man who kind of put this whole story together, and he went to Chad with what he had as a film that just needed to be slightly bolstered, and the story needed to be told in such a way that we could get it out to this many people. Chad came on and saw that this was a story that was just amazing. Chad's a big patriot. Has a lot of love for his country, and anyone who has those kind of feelings about America can watch the story and really feel inspired that on such a dark day there was this hero that kind of came up and gave us something to be positive out of. So Matt Weiss saw that early on, and that's the reason why he originally made the movie. And then, of course, Chad got involved, and that's when I got involved. And a lot of people have just come together to support this film. Of course, we have Gwyneth Paltrow who does the voiceover, and she just has this wonderfully soothing voice while dictating some pretty heavy stuff. I mean, if you've lived through it, or if you've seen any kind of news documentary footage, we've all seen that kind of stuff. The 9/11 footage is just like absolutely awe-striking and horrible stuff to see. So it's nice to have such a smooth and relaxing voice, calming voice like Gwyneth to kind of get you through the documentary.
Yeah, and incredible that she was able to sign on to this project. So neat to be able to have her. And Wells has a New England connection, so he was a Division I athlete. He played lacrosse and hockey at BC, so always had that bandana with him. So just being able to have that New England tie-in as well. Talk to me just a little bit about how you're going to debut it, because people will be able to see this story is it next week? August 9th. I'm trying to think of what day it is.
Right
August 9th.
August 9th, we're very happy to be an official selection at the Rhode Island International Film Festival, which will be taking place next week. We will be screening Man in Red Bandana on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. at the Odeum Theater on Main Street in East Greenwich. Beautiful little historic theater. Going to be a great night, beautiful summer night to go out and check out a movie. Tickets are still available. They're just $10, so you can go over to the Odeum, you can check it out online, go to their box office, grab a copy, grab a ticket, and come check out this amazing film. That's very inspiring. You know, it certainly is one of these movies that'll kind of, if you think you had a rough day, watch this movie, and it'll kind of like change your whole perspective on life.
Yeah, and just to know that there are people out there just willing to give their lives. And he was a volunteer fireman, but he wasn't volunteering that day.
No.
He was working in the Twin Towers.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. Wells had a great job. Wells was working in the finance department of a very big company, in the high floor up in the Twin Towers, and had the world by the you-know-what, but chose to give himself up for others. And that's a pretty amazing thing that, you got to see the movie.
So what was it like for you, because you mentioned this was your first documentary you've worked on, you've worked on other films. What was it like for you to work on something like this, personally?
It was bigger than me, every filmmaker has a little bit of ego. You can't help it. It's kind of like what you do to protect yourself in your artwork, because it's art. It's, you hold it very near and dear. But for this one, it was just like, we all kind of gave up everything, and it was for the movie, and we all just really wanted to tell this story right for Wells and for his family. I got to meet his mother in New York City when we had a screening, and it was amazing. And we were just telling her we just wanted to do right by Wells in this film, and that's all that mattered to us. And I think we did that.
How did they feel when they saw it?
Oh, it's a very emotional experience for them to watch it. But they've certainly been through enough now where they've kind of mentally prepared themselves for what it is, and they've seen the movie so many times, and now. I don't want to say they're over it, because you never get over something like that, but they're at the point now where they want to use it as a tool of motivation, inspiration, and share his story with the world, and that's what we're going to do with Man in Red Bandana.
And so nice to hear. So the premiere in Rhode Island will be on August 9th in East Greenwich at the Odeum, and then looking to release it in September, right?
Correct. September 8th, it will be coming out on all your standard platforms, your iTunes, your Amazon, all that fun stuff, all the many 5 million different ways you can watch a movie these days.
Yeah. What has it been like for you to see different ways that you can watch movies? I'm kind of curious. Because it used to be you have to go to the movie theater to see a movie, but now we're in that term, like you just said, video on demand.
It's weird, and it's certainly changed how you market your films. Yeah. I remember when not to date myself too much, but when I first put my first movie out, it was only available on a couple of platforms, and that was it. You'd say, go get it on Walmart on DVD, and that, it was kind of it. Now it's like there's Hulu, there's Sony PlayStation Network, there's Netflix, there's Amazon, there's iTunes. There's so many ways to see it. So it's kind of just changed the buzz phrases, like we say things like available on all your digital platforms or whatever, So it's just, it's out there. However you watch your movies, you'll be able to find Man in Red Bandana. But if you're in Rhode Island, don't miss the opportunity to see it at the Rhode Island International Film Festival.
Cool. And looking to help with the Wells Remy Crowther Charitable Trust as well, right, with this movie?
Yes, a lot of money that we make on this movie, actually, I'm pretty sure a large portion of it goes to the Wells Crowther Foundation. This is not one of these things that we're doing for profit. You know, a lot of people see these types of things like, you know, as, oh my God, that's terrible, they're cashing in on a tragedy. It's not like that at all. The majority of the profits are going to Wells's foundation. And again, this isn't here to, we're not trying to cash in on a story. We're trying to share a great story with a lot of Americans and a lot of people that need to know about Wells Crowther.
I like that. I think that's important. And yeah, again, just to be able to share a remarkable story that some people may have already known about and some people might not have had any idea. Talk to me a little bit about, you've been working on some other projects. You made a Christmas movie in the spring and looks to be coming out here. When are you thinking?
I would say early December, you know, certainly before Christmas. Otherwise, they kind of missed the boat on that one. But yeah, that one is certainly a lot lighter, and I'm actually already like a little more relaxed just talking about that, because Man in Red Bandana, it's a great film, but there's a lot of emotional knots that it'll tie your stomach in. If you've watched the movie, you'll see what I'm saying. So Santa Files is like a refreshing sigh of fresh air to kind of just be like, it's a wonderful, digestible kids movie. It stars Ed Asner. A lot of great young local actors are in it, and it's just a fun kids movie about a couple of kids that are a little too old to be believing in Santa, you know, early middle school age, and they get picked on.
We all believe in Santa. What are you talking about?
Really, he's real.
Yeah.
As you'll see when you watch my film, The Santa Files. But, you know, it's just about believing in Santa, and when the other kids say he's not real, they say, you know what, we're going to prove that he exists. And these kids go on an adventure to track him down.
Cool, cool. And then what are you working on now? You have another film working on now?
Yes, now is the big one for me. You know, this is to me, it's like every other movie that I ever made doesn't exist except for this one right ahead of me, and that's Vault. It's a movie that's loosely based on an actual heist that took place right here in Rhode Island in 1975. It's a throwback piece. We're going back in time. No DeLoreans necessary. We're going to do it all through the magic of filmmaking, and it's going to be great. I'm so excited to make this period film here in Rhode Island. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest untold heist stories ever. And who doesn't like a good caper?
You know, I mean, heists are fun.
Yeah, they're fun. It's fun to take something that's not yours.
Well, in a movie.
In a movie.
Not in real
Never
life,
in real
right?
life.
I hope, right?
Never.
In a movie. In a
Right.
movie. Cool. So when can we expect? Like, are you working on that right now?
Vault,
Script?
what's
happening
script
right now?
is completed.
Cool.
It was written alongside B. Dolan, who is probably the most. And this is not blowing smoke. I think he's the best screenwriter of the country. He's phenomenally talented, unbelievable writer. I love working with him, and he just did a wonderful job on this movie to take it, because you know it's a true story, and this really did happen. But it's not a documentary, unlike Man in Red Bandana. This is a movie, so we don't want it to be exactly like the way it happened, because sometimes the truth isn't as exciting as fiction.
You want to spice it up enough?
He did a wonderful job of taking what really happened and crafting a little bit of excitement and adding a little bit of cinematic value to it. And B. Dolan, kind of the heart and soul creatively behind the story. And now I'm going to take that script and make my best movie yet, and I can't wait.
Cool. Can't wait to hear from you and see what happens with that. Tommy DeNucci, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. So you can see Man in the Red Bandana August 9th at the Greenwich Odeum, and then look for it to, in other outlets, digital outlets, as well as at Providence Place.
All your various digital platforms.
There we go. I like that documentary. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty.
All right, everyone.